From baggage claim to pajamas in 10 minutes. Erie International Airport. Fly with ERI.com.
Fly Erie International Airport to Charlotte on American Airlines, your nonstop gateway to the world. Also, we have Breeze Airways flying nonstop to Orlando and Tampa, Florida. A great low-cost carrier providing excellent service to the regional community. Fly Erie International for your travel needs.
Fly with ERI.com.
All year round, Frontier Home Products and Design has what you need to make your home comfortable and beautiful. Relax on a new timber tech deck designed by Frontier's experts. A new fireplace from Frontier Home Products Fireplace Gallery adds warmth and serenity to any home. Beauty and versatility at Frontier Home Products and Design Center, 4213 Peachtree, East 5th, next to the Bayfront Highway.
Frontier Home Products and Design Center. Discover a new frontier.
PA contractor number PA 039007.
Welcome to TalkErie.com's Joel Natale Show, Erie, Pennsylvania's daily podcast. Every day, we tackle the biggest issues that the Erie PA region faces. Stay informed and involved as we advance the narrative of Erie. Now, here's Joel Natale.
We want to welcome Tim Broadrick from People for Life. Tim, good to see you. I appreciate you jumping on the show here.
Thank you, Joel.
I guess
Thanks
it's kind of our January tradition, basically, right?
Thanks for calling me down.
Yeah, you got it. Let's talk a bit about the People for Life organization. Maybe give a little bit of background and story and your involvement all these years here.
Sure. Well, the organization's been around since 1975. Formally incorporated, and of course there were some precursors before that milestone. And I don't know when I became aware of People for Life, but it was probably in the late 70s.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
I mean, did it kind of start right away with right after Roe v. Wade? I mean, was there a resistance movement right away?
Yeah, there was, and even before 75, and some people saw it coming, even in the late 60s. And People for Life was, well, I mentioned 1975,
right?
But I also like to say that our first bus trip to the National March for Life in D.C. would have been in 74, first anniversary, and that's a tradition we've kept up every year. And we even had a bus ready to go during the COVID epidemic when the whole thing had to be canceled.
So they did cancel the National March, huh?
Yeah, they did have a little token march with a handful of leaders marching up Constitution Avenue themselves.
Okay.
But that's one year we stayed home. So I've been to every march except that year since 1996. And a lot of good memories there.
Yeah. What I mean, if you could encapsulate the mission of People for Life here, because it's a local organization. It is a Erie-focused organization. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. Thanks for making that point. Yep. We're the one and only People for Life, you might say.
Yeah.
Although we're connected with the state organization and National Right to Life as well. So what's...
Like the mission, yeah.
Oh, yeah, the mission is... put it as simply as possible, to stop deliberate taking of human lives in order to solve personal or societal problems. And that a big focus is taking of lives before birth through abortion, but also any other deliberate taking such as to solve problems such as euthanasia, assisted suicide, infanticide we have to talk about as well. And, to that end, we had a speaker last October who came down from Canada and talked specifically about assisted suicide and euthanasia.
That's becoming quite the big deal up in Canada, where there's an actual law.
Yeah, they used to be, we used to think of the Netherlands as ground zero. And now Canada's leading the world in this kind of bad way. And this gentleman that came down and spoke, since then he has an organization and a newsletter, and he's telling about a story of a man who was in a mental hospital, some sort of behavioral health, however you want to say it. He was out on a day pass and checked in at a euthanasia place, and as it happens, the doctor there was very prominent leader in euthanasia, and that was the end of him. He, hour later, he was a corpse, and it was just off on a walk, you might say, for the day. No protections, no safeguards.
Well, I was going to say, no evaluation that this man is obviously mentally ill and incompetent to make this decision himself.
That's it. Yeah, and that's the trend. They start off with, this is only for the most extreme cases, and we're going to have layers and layers and layers of safeguards. But we know now from from many countries and the Canada experience, it all falls by the wayside. Wow. What they want is just complete personal autonomy, and that's even filtering down to children.
Wow.
Yeah, it sounds unbelievable. But I just have to tell people, look it up for yourself.
Yeah. So there are big markers in January that People for Life do, and I've been mentioning that you're having your big prayer breakfast on Saturday at the convention center. Over 500 attendees. Tell us how that thing has grown.
Yes, it has. We were talking about my first acquaintance with People for Life, and see that it was just in a church social hall, I guess, in a small one at that. I don't know, probably a couple hundred people there, and that was the average back then. We had a big boost in probably 1997. I suggested we invite Senator Rick Santorum as our speaker, and I guess we probably got up around 350, 400 people, and they said, the elders kind of said, that's it. That's all you were, that's the ceiling. And guess where we ended up? 640.
Wow.
Yeah, and that was at the Avalon. Made the newspapers. I remember a report talking about how the senator spoke without any notes for 45 minutes. And turned out people liked them at the time, So there we had some wind in our sails, and we've been trying ever since to find the biggest speakers possible without paying an arm and a leg.
Yeah.
And our next big success was having Dr. Bernard Nathanson. Some of the old timers in the pro-life cause will recognize that right away. Some people will more likely recognize the name The Silent Scream, the movie The Silent Scream. It was using ultrasound to show what abortion is about, back when ultrasound was a brand new technology. And this doctor was one of the, they say, 5 leaders who pushed to legalize abortion, starting back in the 60s. And ultrasound had a lot to do with him changing his mind. And he didn't stop immediately, but started rethinking and started backing off. And the same with the doctor that was actually doing the abortion that time. So then he came out with that movie, The Silent Scream, and wrote several books. And he was kind of a grumpy old, crusty old doctor.
Okay.
That was the reputation. I was coached on how to approach him to come to Erie to speak. Tell him right, nuts and bolts. What's going to happen? What do we want? And then, we're still talking around 19. Late 90s. And that was one I'll to remember, because he was at some sort of medical conference in Louisiana, and we had one of our blizzards up here. And in fact, it was all over the East Coast, and the airlines were shut down. And he said, sorry, I'm not coming. But we begged him. I begged him. He said, okay, I'll go down to the airport and scope it out on the ground.
Right.
And about midnight before the breakfast, I got a call. I'm on a plane from Detroit coming down, I guess, to Erie. And he was there.
Wow.
Yeah, and that was back. He just changed to Catholic at the time. So I remember him in his talk kind of conversing a little bit, referring to Bishop Troutman, who was sitting next to him, checking him out to see if he had this right or that right. Because he had a Jewish background.
Okay, sure.
Very intelligent guy and very interesting guy.
There's always been a faith basis to the pro-life movement, right? But but really, Catholics have kind of led the way, haven't they?
That is true. They kind of found their voice first, because they felt they had the church behind them. I'm talking about, rank and file in the pew people, but I think we've lived that down a lot. In fact, I'd like to see us get to the point where religion, it's certainly not a religious thing. I don't like to see our events listed on the religion page, because this is a human thing, and it's a very public thing, something we need to be concerned about as a society. And I get out to talk to a lot of people at community events and just everywhere, and a lot of people from the faith-based side might be surprised to see how many people who don't have, for better or worse, very strong church background or a religious focus. They might say they're not religious, but they're spiritual but not religious, or they're secular, and they get it too, because this is something we think it's a matter of justice, and it's something for government to be involved in. And if this is coming from something the bishop said, or a passage in the Bible, you have to think twice about asking the entire population to enact laws and restrictions on something like this. And that's what we've been trying to do. And it's not just a Christian thing either. And I can get in trouble. I probably get in trouble for saying that, but it's certainly a Muslim thing, and there are a lot of good Muslims who, would consider abortion just as unthinkable as any Catholic priest,
Right.
But it's nice that we have a strong religious community, because there's some of the people that are more inclined to, look at the big picture, look beyond their immediate circumstances, and want to make a difference, want to ensure a better world. And we know if we don't, people of faith maybe are a little more cognizant of what can happen if God is really taken out of the picture completely. I'm thinking now of the movie Bonhoeffer.
Yeah,
have you seen that advertised?
I've heard the advertisement.
Some people would say great Lutheran minister who stood up to Hitler, and ultimately paid for it with his life. He was hanged just as the Germans were surrendering. But the Germans lost control of the situation, and human life became cheap to the nth degree, and people suffered. And this minister was hanged by personal orders of the Nazi regime for his resistance. But resist he did,
Yeah. Tim, let's talk about the prayer breakfast this Saturday. Again, it's too late to get a ticket, and like I said, it's pretty much sold out, right? I mean,
yes, sir.
You've got a lot of. Tell us a little bit about the program though that you're putting on, and some of the special guests. Yeah,
well, okay. We open and close with a prayer, and I'm kind of excited this year because the Reverend who's going to do the opening invocation is an old high school buddy of mine.
Oh, okay.
Motorcycle riding buddy. And he's also a retired City of Erie police officer. I'm sure he's a very good one. And now he's pastoring a church out in Arbuckle, if you've ever heard of Arbuckle, PA.
Sure.
Christian Missionary Alliance. So I haven't seen him in many years, but I just thought I'd give him a call. And we have a young priest, Father Mack, they call him, who's works primarily at Mercier's Prep, who will do the close. So we have those two ends covered. We have our main speaker is something different this year. She hasn't written any books. She's not that well known, but I just think she's a wonderful example of the strength and resilience and the energy young people bring to the pro-life cause. She was kind of abruptly introduced to the whole thing. The idea of being a mother and getting involved in the cause by becoming pregnant first year of college. And I have to wait we'll have to wait to hear the whole story, but I get the sense that this is a little bit of defiance because she had such a hard time with people telling her she needed to get an abortion.
Okay.
And I just admire these young women so much that have the self-confidence and the courage to take it all on. And which she did. She was 18 at the time, and she's only 21 now, but she has a really cute 2-year-old.
Oh, wow.
She's a nursing student at Grand Canyon University. Another interesting twist is she is literally a high school shooting survivor, where
wow.
2 people were killed and a number were injured, and she was right there in the thick of it with the people that were bleeding and dying. She, I guess it's often a little bit of a tangent, but interestingly, has a very conservative political position, worldview position. And she's very well spoken. She's active with Students for Life of America, which is another organization I personally admire rather well, and they always have a big presence up at the March for Life in D.C. Mm-hmm. And this young lady has been there for the past few years as well and gotten some attention. So, not the kind of speaker we have every single year, but hey, change of pace. And I was hoping maybe our new senator would come down, thinking he lives in Pittsburgh here, right. And come to find out, even our politician, if I can use that word, that's a fixture at the March, Mike Kelly.
Yeah,
I don't think he's March. I mean the breakfast. Excuse me.
Right.
Yeah, he comes every year, and I think that is so cool. Mm-hmm. And he's always anxious to say a few words, and but maybe looks like he won't be able to be there this year either. Dave McCormick just let us know yesterday that the schedule's not going to allow him to be here.
I got to imagine that the inauguration of the president is getting in the way here.
You've got it. We totally understand.
Yeah.
Trump is working him pretty hard up there because he wants to get the ground get the ground running, and he knows he only has 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
God willing, 4 years.
Yeah. Talk about again who the folks that are coming to the breakfast. Is it talk about the diversity and so on, because it is city county, it is regional, and like you say, politicians come, faith people come.
Let me start off with a politician.
All right, yeah.
We have a person coming from Slippery Rock. He's the mayor of Slippery Rock.
Yeah.
You've heard of him, J.D.
Well,
Longo.
he's been coming around. He was very active here during the election.
That's how I met him. We had a booth out at Dan Rice Days, and he came around and was very tuned into what we were doing. So yeah, he's coming up, and unfortunately his wife is almost due, so she'll be staying home. But Brad Roy from Meadville is coming. Scott Hutchinson, the state senator, and we'll just see who else rolls in, right?
Right.
We'll miss Mike Kelly this year, but I haven't been told no for sure yet either.
Gotcha.
Diversity. That's what it's about. DEI is kind of on the back burner right now, but there's a good kind of diversity, and it kind of has to do with what I was talking about earlier. This isn't just a concern of a particular demographic. We run the gamut, and we want people to know that. Sure, there's Catholics and Protestants, and some are coming as groups or church groups. Mm-hmm. We're honored to have the Women's Care Center coming, and I think it's worth mentioning that Sheikh Al-Salani from the Islamic community will be here, and he's as a regular attendee as Mike Kelly. And I think that's important for people to know. And we all get along because we have something here even more fundamental. Like the Sheikh has said, this is a human thing. This is a human tragedy. So there's that. There's the political. Not all pro-life people are big Trump supporters.
Right.
Surprise, surprise. I think we had some tense moments the first time around where people didn't know as much about Trump as we do today. And one of my good friends and good volunteers just doesn't understand President Trump, and he has pretty much on the opposite end of the spectrum from where I am. But you know what? If I need help, he's right there on the spot, and we get along because we know that as strong as we might feel about politics, there's something more fundamental. And we have some Constitution Party people, certainly a lot of independents. People don't want to hear about politics, although we'd encourage them to pay attention to what's going on there.
It's interesting to like you say, human rights are not necessarily all one stripe politically.
Exactly.
If you believe in the right to life, that could come from a lot of different political angles.
Unfortunately, we are very polarized right now, especially at the federal level.
Yeah, there's no doubt. So that's this weekend. Again, it's sold out at the Bayfront Convention Center. That's a nice meal and a nice time. A lot of people just kind of get together.
That's right.
They haven't seen each other in a while.
We encourage each other, and we're encouraged ourselves.
All righty. I've got about 30 seconds here. Talk about the bus trip to the March for Life here.
Yep, it'll be our 52nd annual bus trip.
Wow.
We're leaving 11 o'clock on Thursday night. Oh, wow, a week from today.
Okay.
And we'll be in D.C. for the march on Friday. The headliner is, help me, Ron DeSantis.
Okay.
Governor Ron DeSantis. He just prevented the passage of he deserves some of the credit for preventing a pro-abortion law from going into place.
That's right.
Get paid to drive. Start a new career behind the wheel at the EMTA. If you are looking for a high-paying and rewarding career with full benefits and paid training, stop by or apply online today with the EMTA. Plus, EMTA riders can now enjoy free Wi-Fi on new, clean, and environmentally friendly buses to travel all over Erie County. Visit ridethee.com for more information.
Get on board EMTA. Get on board EMTA. Get on board.
Quickfill gasoline is made right here in America. United Refining Company, who operates Quickfill, refines its gasoline from North American crude oil in Warren, Pennsylvania. When you buy United Refining Company gasoline at Quickfill, you keep jobs and businesses in America, and you keep American families strong. You don't need to send your money overseas when you buy gasoline. Buy American-made gasoline at Quickfill. Quickfill, driving America.
We've got Tim Broadrick with us here from Erie People for Life, and the Pro-Life Breakfast is Saturday, the March, a week from today, down in Washington. And Tim, I wanted to ask you, about where things are at with the pro-life movement, with the Dobbs decision. We talked about the last couple of years now, and the overturning of Roe v. Wade. It has made it a very interesting political environment. Can you expand on just what your perspective is of where the pro-life movement is right now?
Right, Joel, I agree with you 100%. It was a big change of scenery. And before that was the focus. And, they say it was because of Roe v. Wade that such a strong pro-life movement formed in this country, because it was so outrageous. There was no legal basis for it. It was just a bunch of guys on the Supreme Court deciding what they felt the law should be and making law from the bench. And the European countries were more gradual about abortion, and they didn't get the intense reaction that we've had here. And, supporting the March for Life for all these years, longest running, event of its kind.
Yeah, there's no other protests.
That's right.
On an annual basis like this,
especially in the middle of winter.
Yeah.
But so now the question was, where do we go from there? And it's true that some people thought that the battle was over because they really didn't understand Roe v. Wade. Since then, the focus has, in fact, turned to the states, which was where it was at before Roe v. Wade. Roe v. Wade struck down the state laws enacted in all 50 states. And naturally, some parts of the country are very blue, other parts are very red, and there's certainly a correspondence there between the red and the blue. And some states have already enacted very protective laws. And other states would probably want to start another civil war. So
let me ask you something. To your knowledge, is there a total ban anywhere in the United States?
Well, I guess the answer is no, because there are always exceptions.
Okay.
I mean, there's life of the mother, or serious bodily risk to bodily harm.
Sure.
And although our opponents want everybody to think that the end result will be, banning those kind of procedures, and that's never going to happen. Nobody wants to see that happen. But there are some pretty very protective, restrictive, depending on your point of view, laws. In most cases, there are exceptions for rape and incest and those what we call the very hard cases.
Mm-hmm.
Pennsylvania hasn't changed much at all, other than becoming more friendly to the abortion pill, and by reducing health precautions, protections, regulations for the benefit of the mother, for the benefit of the woman.
Now, has that been enacted through legislation, or is that more of the administrative approach to abortion procedures, and where the technology of the medicine has gone?
Well, the technology is part of it. The abortion pill was just legalized around the turn of the century, but it was legalized with very stringent health and safety precautions, and that's been being chipped away. Barack Obama loosened things up a little bit. They've expanded the length of time in pregnancy that the pills can be used. I don't know if that's by force of law or just by firm recommendation from the health department.
Right.
But anyway, more recently, most of the health and safety things have been thrown by the wayside by the Biden administration. Mm-hmm. And I think there's an excellent possibility that, as you say, administratively, these are going to be rolled back to more reasonable guidelines.
What would you describe as a more reasonable guideline?
That the woman considering abortion should at least have a physical examination and a face-to-face consultation to eliminate, for instance, the possibility of ectopic pregnancy, and to assess her overall health, and to make sure that now they can send the pills to a pharmacy by calling it a prescription.
Right.
So who knows who's really going to be the end user of these, and now CVS and Walgreens have gotten involved and are part of the distribution pipeline. Mm-hmm. So there are things that at the federal level we might not see any earth-shaking changes, but there are a lot of things that can be done far short of abortion being prohibited, quote unquote, banned, as they like to say, and that would have to do with government funding, parental rights, funding abortion overseas, forcing really abortion on other countries as a condition for foreign aid, and just an overall less welcoming, less less positive idea of taking a human life as some kind of ultimate constitutional or human right.
Well, that's what I wanted to ask you about. Of in a post-Roe world or a post-Roe United States, is the pro-life movement winning the hearts of the people? Are we seeing more of a culture of life, or has there been a blowback?
A little bit of both. Ron DeSantis has proven that taking a firm position in support of life isn't political suicide by any means. He's doing very well. But the problem, yes, there's been a backlash for sure. And another problem that I think we should be concerned about is complacency on part of the pro-life side. And some of the attacks have been pretty fierce. And I think there are a lot of people or some people, I should say, that kind of think they need to hang low and self-censor. And censorship is on its way out, at least as far as social media goes. And, if President Trump has been a great role model in any way, it's not being afraid to say what you think. And we hope and encourage people to take an example there. So it's a mixed bag. I guess I wanted to mention they talk about defeats through constitutional amendments, and that is true. We've lost
like Kansas
many
and
more
Ohio,
than we've won.
right?
Yeah, Ohio right next door. But it's clear to see that, they say on these kinds of ballot initiatives, whoever spends the most money automatically wins, and the other side has the money. I think we have the people. The other side has the money and the time to buy radio advertising and so forth. And they're not afraid to stretch the truth, to put it kindly. And in Ohio, there was confusion between something that was on the ballot 6 months earlier. In one case, the pro-life vote was a yes. In the other case, it was a no.
Right.
And interestingly, I know directly of a local politician up there towards Ashtabula who took one of the pro-life signs and just doctored it up a little bit to make it look like Ohio Right to Life was supporting the pro-abortion side of the ballot initiative. And he was called on it, and he just laughed. He said, "Yeah, that's my favorite fake sign." Of course, I wouldn't remember his name. I don't want to get into that.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I guess it is an interesting moment, but in the end, this is a person-on-person issue, right? And so would you say that things like, the ultrasounds, the work of the Women's Care Center, the ability to provide resources for problem pregnancies, could be the answer to winning people's hearts?
Yeah, big part of the equation. And the other side can certainly not say that people who are concerned about unborn babies don't care about women or children. That's all you have to do is visit the local Women's Care Center to see about that. Another great thing is the young people. I'm not so old, but there are people a lot younger than me, and Gannon over here has a wonderful Students for Life group, very active, very energetic, and we're going to have about 19 maybe, coming along with us to D.C. We're going to have a few tables of high school kids too at the breakfast, and so I think I see nothing but progress at that level, and they're not afraid to engage with their peers and the public, and no self-censorship.
Well, yeah, it seems like having constructive, rigorous conversations about the things of life is helpful, and there's some really good spokespeople, but also the young peer-to-peer conversations.
Yeah, it's. People want to follow the majority many times, and unfortunately, some people just determine right from wrong by what the majority thinks. And it's important for pro-life people, especially on college campuses, to be seen. And that's a great place to have those kind of reasoned discussions you're talking about. We go out and talk with the general public, but it usually doesn't get too in depth. And by the way, it's almost always civil and friendly. But in our case, it's more of just raising the issue and showing people what goes on in pregnancy and the humanity of the unborn child, and sort of gently, giving them a little reminder. But in college, you can tear apart all the pros and cons.
Talk about the work of People for Life and your volunteers and board members and things beyond the march. Like, what do you do because you do like a lot of events and speaking engagements. Talk about some of your work there.
Yeah, thank you. Well, starting with our board members, we do have some young people and young women with families, 3 and 4 kids, which makes it tough. So, they do what they can, and we're not going to pressure them to do more than
as long as they're in the, if they have 3 or 4 kids, they're getting beyond the replacement rate, right? We're worried about having enough babies to support the old people like us.
That's very true, Joel. But but it's just also goes to show that they're tied up.
Sure,
and
sure.
Homeschoolers are kind of prevalent,
right,
in the pro-life community. So we have a nice range of ages. We have volunteers who like to do certain things, and we still use a lot of volunteer labor with our newsletter that goes out to about 5,500 people.
Wow. Just
a few times a year. We've already heard about email and Facebook too, so that's not the problem there. But it's nice to, not everybody likes those things, so we have a paper newsletter. But and then there are some people that are really, really good at interacting with the general public, and keeping it light, keeping it friendly, and being enjoying people. So you're right. We do as soon as the weather warms up until at least the Albion Fair.
Right.
We're out on the road. And it's educational for everybody involved, including the people in the booth. We have a run in the fall, again something different, A run in 10K, 5K. We're just serious stuff, But we also have the fun walking with strollers and baby buggies. We started a dinner in the fall, and I wish I could give you the exact date, but it'll be late October.
Right.
And that's where we had the speaker out of Canada come down this year. And everything in between,
Before you go, Tim, I want you to talk about, it's remarkable that a community the size of Erie has not had an abortion clinic all these years. I mean, we did have one, I want to say 90s, right, or 2000s?
2003 to 2007.
Okay, so that's when it was, and then it's gone. It's been gone since 2007. But my question is, given the state of medical abortions, of medicine, pharmaceutical abortion,
drug-induced
abortion. Does it even matter at this point? I mean, could we be seeing more abortion in Erie County than ever before? I guess?
The abortion rates for Pennsylvania are rising again after a downward trend since the national trend since the 90s, early 90s. And a lot of that is probably the abortion pill. And I don't know how long that will be the trend, because the abortion pill is not an easy road to travel. In fact, I had quite a bit of personal dealings with the abortion facility in Erie, and they had a version of drug-induced chemical abortion there, but because it's a long, drawn-out process with a lot of cramping and blood, they actually steered people away from it.
Wow!
But now it's so simple with calling the doctor and get a prescription, show up at the local pharmacy. And even worse is some people, unfortunately, are finding things from overseas on the internet. And they have no idea what they're getting. It's just like buying any type of contraband drugs,
Right.
So that may ultimately backfire as well. But 60%, they say, are drug-induced abortions. The abortion places are still in business, but that's not the entire focus as it was at one time.
Right.
And sadly, it's the pharmacies that are bringing it right down into our communities and our neighborhoods, and that needs to be kept in mind. And I mentioned some of the things we do, but we also do public demonstrations, as needed. And, sometimes we even get out to inform people at political events. We don't back candidates, but, we raise the issue. And I've had a group of volunteers who kind of specialize in being out on the sidewalk at the pharmacies. We spent some money for some signs that show what a baby looks like at that stage. A lot of people, when they go to the abortion facility, they'll be told it's a blood clot or a glob of cells, and that's hopefully most of us know by this point, with all the technology, that's not the case.
We're going to leave it there. Tim Broadrick, People for Life from Erie. Again, the sold out event, the breakfast on Saturday. Next Thursday is the bus trip. There's still seats on the bus?
Yes, there are 12 or 15 probably.
Okay. How do they get a hold of you for that?
Just look up People for Life, or call me. Call on the cell phone 814-882-1333. You'll find us on Facebook and on the website, so forth and so on.
Appreciate it. Thanks for taking the time, Tim.
You're welcome. I love it.
You've been listening to The Joel Natale Show, Erie, Pennsylvania's daily podcast from TalkErie.com. Subscribe to our show on your favorite podcatcher and get involved by emailing joel@TalkErie.com.